This week's episode, we got a special guest in the studio. We're going to be talking about a diversity in your education, making the most out of your education, and it's going to start here in just a few seconds.
The grid is brought to you by Platypod, the tripod alternative that is changing the world. Everybody has a Platypod. You should too. Go to platypod.com.
DeBaeremaeker.
Well, hey, everybody. We're here live. Look at us. Now, Scott is not here. He was supposed to be here, but he's not here. He's on a plane right now. As you know, air travel in 2022 is interesting. But we have some great in-studio guests with us. You've seen these guys before. Now they're here. I think you've seen Skip. Skip's here. He's been here in person before, right? And Dave over there, you're joining us as well here on the grid. So welcome. I appreciate you guys coming in. And what are we going to be talking about today? You were talking about the subject today. So what are we going to be talking about today?
There's so much that everybody's able to get out of online education now. So whether you're live at a conference or you're online, Dave and I wanted to hit on the importance of diversity in terms of building out your skill set. Because if you're a one-trick pony in today's environment, you're going to be dead meat the first crisis that comes along, and we all learned that. We all learned that in the pandemic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so and Dave, your specialty, while it is in toy photography, you use so many different aspects of other styles of photography in that, right?
Oh yeah, there is no. Well, I made a course on toy photography, so you should watch it. But all those skills that I picked up. I learned from a wide variety of other styles and techniques, and I wanted to kind of share some of those techniques that I brought into it to give an idea of how the diversification can actually improve your work, even though it doesn't seem to directly apply at the time.
Well, that's awesome, and I think this is going to be a great topic, but before we get to that topic, we got to get through some of the business here, right? So first, do you guys want to go into, we've got some specials from stuff that we're going to show today. We've got the Platypod. You're going to be showing that. You're going to be showing stuff with your light kits and all that. So do we want to talk about those specials that you guys are going to be launching, or do we want to go through prizes first?
Well, can we hit the Black Friday slide?
Yeah, let's do that. So on the show, we're going to be launching the Black Friday sales for Platypod. So if you got that graphic, there you go, right there. So
they launch as of right now. They're up. They're on the website, or if they're not on the website, they will be the minute we get off the air. We've got 3 bundles, and then on top of the 3 bundles, if you enter SKBF, standing for Scott Kelby Black Friday, and the number 20, it'll take 20% off 11 different products, including the new Platyball, the Platyball Elite, the Platyball Ergo, and the new award-winning Extreme, which we're really proud of. So you've got 11 different products that are in there. The Ultra's in there. It's all happening as of right now, November 9th, 1 p.m., straight through, hopefully, to the end of the year while supplies last.
And that's the key right there, while supplies last. So get in on it. So I would tell you, if you bring up the graphic again, so I use pretty much everything up there, other than I'm interested to see Dave's macro bundle over there. That I know that's pretty much the kit you use, right, Dave?
If I was going to design a Dave starter kit for toy photography, it would basically be the macro bundle.
Awesome. So I'm interested to see that, but those Platy discs are a sleeper. I think that's one of the things, like having that disc on the bottom of your camera and being able to mount it any which way you want. That's a really cool thing to have. I have a couple of those in my bag, I know, and I have them mounted on my camera as well. So
I rarely even take them off my camera anymore because I'm not fooling around with D-rings on the bottom, which are always so annoying. But then also over on the macro bundle, the Extreme Macro Bundle, as part of the holiday Black Friday promotion, also includes now that little Benro IN00 ball head, which is perfect for macro and close-up work.
Because it gets your well, and I use those two because you can get so close to the ground.
Yeah.
Even just having that perspective, getting that so close to the ground. But that's what these things are just amazing.
Yeah,
for.
and you
But
mentioned
all those.
I mean, you mentioned the disc.
It's awesome.
I have one, like I said, I've got one on every camera, and most of the time I just leave them on.
There's a hidden feature of that disc actually that doesn't show up in the product photography. On the bottom is a tripod screw.
Yep.
And I use that a whole lot because you can put that disc right on the Platypod and get your camera even lower. So if you can get it lower and then you need to shoot straight out, it's
money.
It's
money. Yes, I love it. And well, the extreme is money too. I love the fold out legs. That is one of those things that has just been a lifesaver for me. I didn't realize how much time, even though it wasn't that hard to screw in the legs.
I feel like Vanna
time.
White. I feel like Vanna White here. Would
It's
you
the
like to buy a
time.
vowel?
Boom. I mean,
there it
it's
is.
like you're deployed. You're
instant
ready to
deployment,
go.
You're ready to go.
And then you turn the other way and you got spikes and you can turn them at different angles. I mean, it's perfect. You don't know how many times that thing's been on a rocket pad and I just push it into the ground and the rocket's never going to knock it over. In fact, I had that one, I was just shooting an engine and it was going right against the camera. I just pushed that thing into the ground. I'm done. That thing will not move. So I'm telling you, it's neat. And then the Platy ball as well. So anyways, all that stuff, you go over there, you see the code there that was
SKBF20 will take 20% off 11 different
any product.
Platypod, not any.
Well, a
any
lot of
Platypod,
products.
anything, any Platypod product.
Yes, there you go. Any Platypod product, which is that's what you want to be buying. So.
It excludes the bundles, but then in addition, there are 3 bundles for Black Friday specials through the holiday season.
Well, there you go.
And there
Definitely
they are.
Check that out. Yeah. And let's move on to, we're going to be doing some prizes giveaways. And one of the giveaways we're going to be giving away is a Platypod Extreme.
Extreme.
So you can win an Extreme here on the show. We're going to be giving away one of those. We're also be giving away one of Scott's books here. We've got the travel photography book by Scott Kelby. So we're going to give that away to somebody who's watching. Then we're going to be giving the How Do I Do That in Lightroom book right here. So we've got that one as well. And then we're going to be giving away a copy of On One Effects 2022. So we've got a copy of On One Effects 2022. Go check that out. It says 2022. I know that there's a 2023 version, so I might get confirmation. There's a 2023 version now, which I've been using. It's awesome. I've actually been using their On One No Noise 2023, which is a big improvement from 2022 as well. There's a new sharpening thing in there that's really cool. Neat stuff. It's awesome to see these AI products. In fact, that's my image right there. There you go. These products are really cool, like the No Noise, even the Resize. The Resize 20, the AI that they're able to feed into these products and then make your images like noiseless, and it's just amazing. So it's like giving life to your images that had high ISO, or just even 10 years ago were just so grainy. You can just bring them right back. And then we're going to be giving away a copy of, or one of the the V flats from V Flat World. So we're going to be giving away one of these. I don't know if you guys seen these. They're awesome. They just fold right up. You can stick them right in your trunk. It's really cool for taking around these V flats with you.
They're also outstanding for tabletop work.
Yes, tabletop work, and then
instant background.
And one of the things, if you're doing product work, that's awesome, is these dual board XLs. So we're going to be giving away one of those. So one V flat to one grid viewer, and then one dual board XL. That is for U.S. shipping only. So only enter that if you can have a U.S. shipping address. But everybody's a winner with V-Flat Worlds because you can use their discount code KELBY10 and get 10% off over at vflatworlds.com. And then we want to give a shout out to one of our new sponsors, Imagen. They're giving 1,000 AI edits if you go over to imagen-ai.com. It's great because it's one of those softwares that, again, AI, it goes right in your Lightroom. You install it in there, and then you can use their presets that are preset AI looks that professionals have set up, or you can create your own AI look. So what it does is it analyzes the way you edit you send it in a bunch of your different final files. It studies that, sees how you edit a photo, and then can apply that to future photos automatically through the AI. So the AI is learning your way of editing. So check that out over at imagen-ai.com. Awesome. Well,
Look at that. We got Hilmar here. We got
yeah,
Dave Williams
you got
over in the
Hilmar,
UK.
You got Dave Williams.
Nice.
These are definitely, I've seen them using Platypods all the time.
Absolutely.
Platyballs. And then we got Stuart Greenberg joining us from Long Island, New York. We got Jerry joining us from, let's see, Washington. We've got Alberto joining us from Salt Lake City, Utah. Dale over there from Iowa. Alex saying hi from Aberdeen. Cheeky Nando all the way over there across the ocean. And then we've got Pee Wee joining us from Maine. And Larry T. Larry T's in the chat. So
Larry
there we
T
go.
is
Hey,
there.
Larry. So let's get to our topic, though. We're talking about education and that importance of like diversifying your skills. So why do you think it's so important?
Well, let's
to do that?
let's start with just talking about job security. You hit
Right.
it just now when you were talking about all the different software
Yep.
and the tweaks there. Well, how do you learn about that unless you really have a chance to either take a class? There's an awful lot of DIY in our industry,
yeah.
but you want to do DIY right. You want to learn from everybody else's mistakes so you can make new ones of your own. And in terms of education right now, I don't think it's ever been more important for photographers to be more diverse in their skill set. For example, if you were a wedding photographer and you were a one-trick pony, when the pandemic hit, what did you do next? And we lost a lot of great artists in this industry.
Yeah.
And what's happened now is, and again, I mean, we're all getting a little tired of Zoom and communication like that, but online education now offers today, I think, people more access to more diversity, to more skills. And one of the things I always like to remind photographers, if, for example, you're headed into the next Kelby, when is the next Kelby Media conference? Do
Well,
we
we've
know?
got a conference coming up in the spring, but we have
All right.
not announced it yet.
Okay, never mind.
But it will be
But-
coming in the spring. I
but-
guarantee it.
But for example, if you're going to a conference like that, always take at least one or two classes outside your comfort zone, because growth only happens outside your comfort zone.
Absolutely. I mean,
And you've got things you've learned on different programs just like
oh
that.
yeah. I mean, I know the first Photoshop World I went to, which I think was 2017 or so. I went to a Tim Wallace talk because there was a spot open. I didn't have a class I wanted to go to, and he spoke with a British accent, and he had cars. So I figured, why
Yeah,
not?
why not? Yeah.
And then he was starting to talk about how he deals with really large, shiny, curved objects. And I thought, that's cool, that's great. But then I realized at the time I was shooting Lego minifigures, and those are just really
Curved.
tiny, curved, shiny
Yeah,
objects.
exactly.
And a lot of
That's
the
awesome.
techniques apply. You just have to scale it down a little bit. But there's a large amount of the work that I do now is informed simply by taking that class and realizing that that connection is there. And there was value to be learned from that class other than just spending an hour on an interesting topic. It actually really has affected how I approach working with toys.
Yeah, and I can even think of my own experiences with this. That this has been a big thing for me as well. I know I learn a lot of stuff just from watching different people do different techniques. I know that a lot of times I'm pulling stuff that wedding photographers or product photographers do and applying it to aviation or aerospace photography, or even night photography. So it's amazing how when you do diversify your skill set, how you're able to go beyond, and then you start picking up other work because of that diversification. Because then people see that, oh, not only can you do this, but you can do that, and that's been a cool thing.
Well, when I've taught workshops and I've got a room full of wedding photographers, I will always ask, how many of you do tabletop work? And not a single hand goes up. And yet the toughest shot in the whole world for anybody to get is the wedding cake. You've got no light, you've got minimal time, you've got no control, and the bride wants to see the insignia on the cake knife because it was her great-grandmother's.
Yep.
And how do you get that shot? Well, nobody is teaching, I don't want to say nobody, but very few people are teaching, all right, close-up, macro work, whatever, on wedding cakes. But if you followed somebody like Dave and you've taken a class in toy photography or close-up work, then you start to understand, hey, here's some things I can do. Yeah, product photography. Here's some things I can do with, for example, Platypod and a couple of Lumicubes, and you've got the ability to go to an instant setup where you can get those flower shots, ring shots, cake shots, because in every specialty there's a crossover. It doesn't matter your specialty is weddings. Somewhere in there, you're going to have to shoot either without a flash, in low light, in horrible conditions, and the bride and groom are going to be expecting that shot of, look how beautiful the bouquets were, or detail shots as you're setting up a wedding. And that's where that diversity comes in.
Absolutely.
Another aspect of that too is you could have a plan, but what happens if your lights break halfway through the ceremony? What do you do? There was actually on the Epic Photography podcast, which is fantastic. If you haven't listened to it, you should. But there was a couple of the wedding photographers were having an episode about that, and one of the photographers was talking about a time where her camera just died. I think it just died like mid ceremony, and she actually had to go grab, talk to one of the guests who had a camera with him. Said, "Can I please borrow your camera so I can take some photos?" And luckily they let her borrow it. But that type of quick thinking when you only have the one time to get that shot, having just enough skill sets to deal with all the things that life can throw your way can make the difference between getting the shot and not getting the shot. And if you're a wedding photographer, not getting the shot could mean losing clients.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And even with like what you just said, like that's why it's so important too to just know generalized settings in photography. If you just know your piece of gear, that's very limiting, right? To be able to pick up any camera, to be able to pick up any lens and be able to work with it, that's something that I think everybody should do sometime, especially if you want to get better at your photography. Just don't use the same thing over and over. Like, I know that we like to rely on this piece of gear, that piece of gear, but if you're just going and dialing in settings because you saw somebody's like post, I mean, one of the most frustrating things for me is when people ask me my settings, because I'm like, it really varies by what was the lighting like, what was the atmosphere like. I mean, I can tell you the settings, but if you just go dial those into the camera, like, you're not learning anything, right? It's about knowing. So much so that I could go pick up that guest camera and they could be shooting a Nikon and I could be shooting a Canon, and as long as I know how to get in there and tweak these dials of the settings, I'm good to go. Like, that's a great skill set to have, is to be able to pick up anything and be able to work with it. So, but hey, we do have to take a break. When we come back, I want to look at we got to look at some of Dave's work. I know we want to talk about more about this topic, but we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Have you ever gone to the movies and after spending your $30 on popcorn and a ticket, you walked out of the theater thinking, man, that movie was just an excuse to sell toys? But I have started to think that maybe I can look at those toys a different way. And I am a storyteller at heart. And the stories I want to tell are based on those cinematic universes that I love so much. So maybe I could use those toys to tell the stories that I want to tell. The only limit is my imagination. The best part is, you could do the same thing. So join me for my class on Unlocking Storytelling with Toy Photography, only on Calby One.
Last year at Adobe Max, Adobe launched all that new masking stuff and our minds were blown. It was a real, legitimate game changer. How are they gonna follow that up? Ready to get your mind blown part 2. Because in this new class, I'm gonna get you up to speed fast on the brand new stuff that Adobe just announced at Adobe Max. All the new incredible masking stuff. They took the masking stuff they did and took it up a whole nother level. It is going to blow your mind when you see it, and I want to show it to you because I want to get you using it. I don't just want to tell you what the features are, I want to show you how to use them. I got some little tips, I got some tricks, I got lots of good stuff for you. Not just Photoshop, not just Classic, not just mobile, but for Photoshop as well. All of that's in this one class. I hope you come and check out my brand new class. Get up to speed fast on the mind-blowing new things in Photoshop and Lightroom 2023 version.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by B&H Photo, the professional source since 1973.
Well, hey, we're back. We might have lost Skip, but he's on it. He's fixing Stuart Greenberg's problem right now. So that's how good he is about making sure that everybody's getting what they need.
That's top
so
customer
Stuart,
service right there.
He's working on your problem right now. But while Skip's doing that, before he gets back, you were talking about your images, and we're talking about your images, but maybe showing some of your images. I know there was a commercial break there where we saw your class, and we saw some of those images. But I know you wanted to show, along the lines of what we're talking about here, right?
Right.
Of being able the importance of doing these, being able to roll with changes in your photography. So maybe you could walk us through some stuff.
Sure. So this image here. The background story of this image is that I have several photographer friends in Ontario, and so when I go up to visit them in the summer, we all get together at one of their backyards, and they have a couple models that show up, and we all just get in this creative huddle. So what you have is a model who's doing cosplay type stuff, and then a whole bunch of photographers trying to get the shots that they want. So it's a little bit chaotic. It's a lot of fun. For this shot here, one of the lessons that I want to kind of highlight that I got from somewhere else is the idea of capturing the peak action, which is a concept I got, I believe, from Scott Kelby's book called Digital Photography, where he's talking about sports, and when you're shooting sports, you want to catch you don't want the shot before the guy catches the ball. You want the ball in his hand while he's in the air, that type of thing. So when I was shooting this model, there were 3 or 4 photographers lined up in this creek beside me, all trying to, get her attention, civilly, of course. But so that lesson came into my head, and I was waiting for just the right moment to get the shot. And this pose wasn't actually my request of the model. Somebody else, I think she did it on her own. But it was just having that mindset of waiting for that peak moment and taking the shot to just grab the exact moment that I wanted. And then I added some stuff in Photoshop, of course, because that's what I do.
So that's a great example of, using, peak moment action. That was beaten in my head by Dave Black for years, that's what you want. You want that peak moment of action, right? And that was applied to a model shoot, the cosplay, but it's really a concept that we hear a lot in sports photography or other types of photography. So learning it from another whole genre, bringing it over there, but still that same thing applies. And that happens to me all the time. I'll tell you, I'm shooting and I hear these whispers in my head. Who's always in my head is like Jay Maisel. He's like always in my ear.
Absolutely.
And it's like a voice that comes in and he goes, where's the gesture? Where's the light? Where's the color? And it's like, I'm just hearing him saying it. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. There's no shot. I'll wait. But that's street photography. I don't even do really street photography, but I hear him in my head in rockets and aviation and aerospace, in night, all that stuff. You hear it. And it's like you apply that to your photography. So it's a great tip. Great tip. Do you have anything else that you wanted to show?
This image here, For context, it's a Hulkbuster if you're a Marvel fan. I shot it in my backyard, just sitting on a retaining wall at night, so the background was black. The only light I had was actually a Lume Cube panel, which is part of the bundles if you for the Platypod thing. And it was not enough light to capture this guy, but he's really shiny. He's actually made out of like metal. He's a really awesome action figure. But I wanted to get all the lights in all the right places. So this is a tip I grabbed from Tim Wallace I was talking about with his automotive courses. Right. He takes like a big flash softbox and he just kind of walks around a car and just aims it at the fender wheel or the fender, whatever you call it, and takes a shot, aims it over the door panels, takes a shot, aims it over here and takes a shot. So he gets all the light right, all the light in all the right places. And then he combines it all in Photoshop. And that's basically what I did with this guy here. I had a light behind him to kind of get the edge lights in the back. I had a light specifically to get his hand that's kind of going forward, and another light on the side. But I only had one light, so I took them all in different shots and looking at the reflections of those lights and saying, yes, at this point, this is the light I want. And then took probably 5 exposures to get this shot. And then in Photoshop, I just merged them together with layer masks and just kind of got the right light I want, and that's the image that we got here.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Great shot.
It's great. Yeah, I mean, what I think, and that's what just to point out in this way, like that last image we were looking at, that's not computer generated. That's a toy.
Yep.
That you're lighting and make to look like that. Like giving it the gesture, giving it the lighting. I mean, like that's everything in there is created in camera and then in post put together with the lighting.
Yeah, and it's actually very simple. It's just put the layers in Photoshop, just add them up as layers, set them to the light blend mode, and then just add a mask, so you just mask in the parts that you need.
I laugh because I use the same technique from Tim Wallace in my photography. And that's the thing, is it's just like you learn these techniques and then you use them, it's great. So, and then I saw we had another image there.
Yep. This is another Tim Wallace thing where he takes shots of the badge of the cars and just kind of highlights it with one light. And I had Spider-Man here, so I thought, nothing more iconic than a superhero's logo on his chest. So this was the same thing, just one light over top of it with a Lume Cube shining down. But just that aspect of having the light falling over the textures to capture that singular logo was the inspiration for the shot. And that's all, that's the simplest shot you can take. But just the secret sauce that I learned really was putting the lights in the right spot to capture, so it really highlights the textures of it, so the logo comes out.
Sculpts around the logo.
Yeah, and you can see a bit of his chest as well, because that's also part of the superhero thing is, the big muscular, it's Spider-Man, he's a small muscular guy, but yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Well, Skip, you're back. I know you walked in here kind of silently.
I didn't exactly sneak in, but just so from now on when I have to step out, the Skip Cohen bobblehead is now on sale. It's
awesome.
New toy from Hasbro.
Very cool.
That's just so silly.
But hey, you got your own bobblehead now.
I got my own bobblehead. Actually, it's my wife's bobblehead, and I had to beg to bring it today because I couldn't figure out how I was going to use it. To Stuart, I just want to say, Stuart, my apologies. It wasn't working because Skip didn't turn it on. SKBF20 is now alive and well. So if you try it again, Stuart, let us know if it worked. But the point that both of you were making right now, and if you look at the Spider-Man logo just a second ago, now pretend that was either a single rose or it was wedding rings.
Yeah.
And how are you going to light it? And that's my point about education, that we're an industry that it never stops. And it's not just because of diversity in your skill set, but you got to keep up with technology. And the tools that are out there right now today. Photographers have more tools for creativity than at any time in we're around 178-year history of photography.
Oh yeah, and
it's incredible.
I 100% agree with this. Is that's where I learned more. I think sometimes people look at education, they're like, they're a wedding photographer, and they're like, I need to watch this wedding photographer teach me this, or I need to buy this wedding photography course. I bet a lot of the times, because I know it happens to me, they learn more from getting outside their comfort zone, going to something new, and then they'd apply those techniques in probably even a different way than everybody else has done, which is something that does set you apart from the crowd. You know, if you're just replicating what other people are doing a lot of times, it's a little boring. You know, so doing these techniques where it's different, it's new, to even toy photography, you know, like there's a lot of people that I know do shoot toy photography, but it's kind of like blah. It's just kind of, it's classic product photography, toy photography,
Right.
where it's like, you know, it's kind of like wedding photography and how it's evolved, where there was like an older look to wedding photography or a more traditional look to wedding photography. That doesn't fly anymore. It just doesn't. Like, people don't want that. When they go hire a wedding photographer, they don't want that 50-year-old look to it. And that's where sometimes if you get outside your comfort zone, you kind of do something new, you can apply that to your photography. And that's where I think like things like Kelby One are great, when you have access to all these different topics and being able to learn something that's maybe outside of what you do, but then you apply that if you just keep your mind open. And I think that's the key a lot of times, is keeping your mind open to, maybe I can apply this to my own photography.
Sometimes that
it's
it's not obvious either,
Yeah.
what is going to apply. I know, I can't think of an example right now, but there's dozens in my history where you learn something and because you just watched it, because it's just, you know, maybe it was the thing that was on, and it's like, okay, I'll just watch this, and you watch it just because it was interesting, but then they give some tidbit of knowledge, some bit of information that didn't make sense, maybe didn't understand it, but 3 years from now, while you're learning, you're expanding your knowledge, things start to click in, and all of a sudden you do understand it, then you get that light bulb moment that says, hey, that's what they were talking about, and that makes a whole lot more sense. I'm a big fan of filling your brain with like a stream of information and filtering out the stuff that makes sense and filtering out the stuff you can use and let the rest go to the wayside. But all that stuff kind of stays in your brain. And over time, connections get made that you don't realize are going to be made. And I find more often than not that those connections often pay dividends and make your work better in the long term.
Well, let's go outside the classroom for a second. Networking is another piece of why you've got to go to every Kelby Media event, why you've got to go to live conferences. When you're networking and you're talking to another photographer, odds are they've had some of the same problems you have. And you start to learn some of the skills. And when you look at your network, you always want to have people in your network, besides being good friends, you want people in your network that complement your weaknesses, and you have a skill set that might complement theirs. So that when you are stuck, and hey, you know, we met in Dave's class, you know, 2 weeks ago on a Kelby program. What are you doing about the following? And you start to find that network, and the world is a tiny place now, thanks to social media.
Thanks to the internet,
it's just a great way to be able to keep building your education. So it's not just the classes outside your comfort zone. It's spending time talking to other photographers and finding out what they're doing, how they're dealing with the challenges, what do they like, what do they not like about a new product.
Oh yeah.
It's a great way to be able to keep growing.
Well, that's one of the ways, you know, I think I know there's a lot of people that in our membership that really find a lot of value in our community, you know, because they're able to, again, network and talk with other photographers. I know I love it because I learn about what people are struggling with, what people are worried about, their questions. But then not only that, I end up learning a lot of things from other people, you know, just learning about like new techniques or and like you were saying, it's just plugging in with the community, being able to talk to people and see what they're struggling with.
Well, I'd love everybody out there to become an educational stalker. All right, so
yeah.
you've all got to become stalkers. Now, that doesn't mean that you hunt down an educator you didn't like. That means
You gotta watch out there.
Yeah, that means that you follow them everywhere. You look at their blogs, you look at their Instagram pages, you look at Facebook, you follow what they're doing on Twitter. The whole point is that you've got the ability to be able to follow all that additional education that they're sharing so that you become even better.
Well, hey, I just see in the chat we've got this guy Scott Kelby guy.
Scott
We were
Kelby.
giving away some of his books here. He says, "Greetings from the San Francisco airport." So, hey
Okay.
Scott.
So that means he's not going to join us for dinner tonight?
Well, unless he's flying on a Concorde that they resurrected, I don't think so. And he also said he'd love to win a Canon R6 Mark II. And I said, well, I mean, I'm sure B&H could arrange that. It's just they're gonna need these numbers off of a card in your wallet, and they certainly can arrange delivering that prize right to you. So, hey, we got to take a break. This time's flying, but when we come back, we're gonna check that deal's good, which we could bring up that deal again, but that deal's good. It's SK BF20 over on the site, so you can go check that out.
I'm Karen Hutton. Join me as we go chasing fall color in the eastern Sierra Nevada mountains of California to make amazing images of this incredible time of year. I'm going to share with you everything I can come up with out of my years of experience photographing this incredibleness in this beautiful part of the world to hopefully save you some time and energy when you want to shoot the glorious colors of autumn wherever you are in the world. I'll share tricks like understanding how fall color starts at the highest elevation and works its way down, and what that timing is all about. We'll talk about planning, we'll talk about preparing, we'll talk about gear, we'll talk about lenses, the actual nitty-gritty about how to shoot some of it, as well as how to tell a story, how to walk away with a book of your experiences, how to use color play. We'll talk about the detailed shots, the mid shots, the big epic shots. We're going to share a lot with you, and I'm not holding anything back. So join me for my latest class and best adventure ever at kelby1.com.
What if you could hire an extra set of hands just to deal with editing your photos? And what if this assistant was thinking and editing exactly like you? With Imagine, this is not a distant dream. Introducing your new personalized AI Lightroom Classic editing assistant. It analyzes your unique editing style down to the very last detail and applies that style instantly and uniquely to every new photo from your Adobe Lightroom catalogs. Whether it's color correction, cropping, or straightening, Imagine's AI assistant knows what needs to be done based on your previous edits. The AI constantly learns your unique point of view and improves. With just a few clicks, Imagine edits your photos in your personal style faster than ever. It takes less than half a second per photo at all volumes. Now you can finally have the time to scale up your business and win back free time. In addition to creating your own personal AI profile, you can also use one of our pre-built talent AI profiles if you are uncertain about your unique style or just want to explore the signatory styles of leading photographers. Your new AI assistant is here to deliver. Achieve amazing results right from the first frame and maintain the highest level of precision in each and every photo. Starting at only a few cents per photo, you get fantastic value for your money and save hours of work. So say goodbye to hours of tedious manual editing and to presets that distort your photos and underdeliver. And say hello to the future.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by Canon.
All right, well, we're back. We're talking about education in your photography. You know, Dave, you're showing some images, but I know you have some more. And I'd love to see you talk a little bit more about these images and how that education, like seeing those different things, brought into your photography. I love the whole like Tim Wallace and car photography, but what else do we have?
Well, this shot here. This is actually from that same shoot that the Angel was shot at. And what I wanted to kind of bring up with this shot here is that the model brought the outfit and brought that acorn. I think she intended to be kind of like something she held in her hand. But the second I thought, what story can I tell with this image? And just holding an acorn wasn't doing it for me. But I thought if she was looking at something, that'd be fantastic. But if she's opening up a thing, she's an elf, she's magical, there should be some light coming out of it. So I grabbed a lume cube and tossed it in there. And somebody happened to have some atmosphere aerosol, which is like fog machine in a can.
Oh, that stuff's great.
Oh yeah. So that's what you see in the smoke. There is a little shot of that with the Lume Cube lighting her face and taking the shot. And there's so many lessons out there about finding the story, not just taking a bland photo or a bland portrait, but putting something into it, putting personality into it. And I think that image there kind of demonstrates taking it from just a portrait to an actual story being told. I'm not sure what's in that acorn, but there's something there, and it's pretty astonishing.
Right. It has that, like Pulp Fiction when they're opening up the suitcase and it's always glowing. But you never see what's in it, and it's like, well, what is it? Is it soul? I don't know, whatever, But it's that whole thing of like, there's a story behind it.
Exactly.
And that's where sometimes with photography, it's like you're telling a story, but the story can be different for every person. But you're still like with that image, it's like there's something in there that is radiating up, and that's drawing.
Kind of makes you ask the question.
Yeah, like what is that?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Can we go back to that last shot just for a second of yours, Dave?
Yeah.
Just a comment I want to make. This is in reference to everybody's galleries. It's totally separate from our actual topic today.
Yeah.
But when you look at your galleries on your website, make sure that every image is a wow image. A wow image to me is one that's so good it's the only one you'd have to show to get hired.
Yep.
That's just a stunning shot. The way you and it does tell a story. You're a storyteller all with one image. And when you look at so many galleries of so many photographers out there, they've thrown everything in. And you don't want to throw everything in. You want to be very selective. Less is more.
Yep.
You want to show only your very best work, not shots that anybody's Uncle Harry could have got.
Yeah, and I think with that is I think where people get, and again, we might get getting a little off topic, but again, we're talking education here, right? But when it's okay that you shot those photos, but you don't need to show them to everybody. Those are the photos where you're figuring it out, you're learning, you're doing something. I feel like there's some people that they want to show you everything they've done to show you everything they've done. It's like, I really only needed to see that photo and not the 5 other photos that are just okay.
Right.
And that's to your point. That's what we have to do. Is
show your wow work.
If I hire you, I need to know you can do the math, but I don't need to see your grade 5 homework.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's good.
Well, hey, what other images we got here?
Let's see what the next one is.
I think it was the
3 leaves. So this shot here, the lesson I wanted to bring up is I only had one of these figures, so I duplicated them 3 times in Photoshop. But it was the posing that I wanted to bring up. The trying to make toys look realistic, and I think I've captured it here, is difficult because they will move in ways that humans don't. But understanding how the body moves, I kind of started getting along that thought, actually, again, from the very first Photoshop World Conference I went to. I saw somebody who was doing portrait shoots. I think she does fashion. I forget her name.
Lindsay Adler, maybe?
I very well might have been. And she was talking about these different poses in different ways and how things move. And part of that is trying to really grasp how they would hold themselves. Like when somebody's looking at something else, how do their bodies actually move? Another lesson I got that is actually not from photography at all, is from animation and comic book drawing, where when they try to show movement, they don't have straight lines, they have curved lines for bodies. So that's another kind of aspect that was brought in. It's nothing to do with photography, but those lessons helped inform what I did with those figures in the image.
Oh yeah, and I think that's probably something huge in toy photography, right? Is understanding posing, because that's what it is you're bringing life to this lifeless subject.
Yep.
But that's what's so cool about it. Like even if you look at that image, like every single one of them has a different. You can tell it's got a different gesture, different emotion to it, and it's because of the way they're posed. Turning the head off to the side, or looking down and peering down, and then looking straight down. It says a lot just with the posing.
Yeah. Another aspect, actually, specifically with toy photography, is looking at the visual effects of like Hollywood. I have learned so much about trying to make inanimate things look better, by watching this YouTube channel called VFX Artists React. It's by Corridor Crew. And they just go through shows and they're VFX artists and they just kind of break it down and say, this is an interesting thing. It's amazing because of this, or it falls down, what's wrong with it? It's probably because of this. And kind of learning those lessons from the people who spend all their time telling those stories. It's even though it applies to Hollywood, and I don't do like video effects, the actual how light falls on things and how like skin is actually translucent and not opaque, those types of things. I've learned more about compositing stuff like that than almost anything else. To take it from like the 90% to the 100% is that gap is, you can get that insight slowly over time from a wide variety of sources.
Well, and you hit education again. You started out talking about something you saw in a class, probably Lindsay Adler. Lindsay is, by the way,
absolutely
phenomenal. For those of you that don't know Lindsay, go look at her work. She started her business at 15 and was in business.
She got
she's phenomenal.
Courses over on Kelby One.
You got it. Phenomenal fashion. But you learn something in a Lindsay class, and suddenly you're applying it to toy photography.
Yeah.
And it all ties back in with understanding lighting and posing and composition. There's still the fundamentals.
Oh yeah, and the other thing you brought up there, like I do, and I have a couple friends, we do that all the time. We're breaking down images. We're talking to each other, like breaking down, like, oh, what do you think they did there? Do you think it's a composite? Do you think it's not? You know, like really dissecting and getting in and like figuring out like great images, like what happened here? How did this come together? Because you learn a lot just from talking to everybody, and just talking to your friends about like what went into making these images.
And it's not just recreating the image, it's like if you're compositing thing and you want to sell it as being real, if you look at it and say, well, this looks composited, but why? Yes. And then if you can figure out what the why is and then fix that for your own work, then you're that much farther ahead.
Right.
Exactly. I remember going to my very first Photoshop World, which would have been, I think, Mandalay Bay years ago. Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we were at the Mandalay Bay for years.
Well, I remember walking by two young photographers, and they're looking at a David Zeisser bridal portrait. Mm-hmm. And they're arguing over which Photoshop tool David used to drop in the hair light. And I just lost it. And it's like, guys, go learn lighting, because he didn't. That's all out of camera. It was a standard. It was David's 3-light setup, or maybe it'd have been 2 in a reflector. But the whole point is that, once again, going back to education, all those tools out there in Photoshop are all based on things that
like
everybody
life,
did,
right?
Like real life.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, that's a big thing. We were just having that conversation with a fellow photojournalist, because like when I'm doing photojournalism, you're doing it in one shot. That's you have to. That's like part of the thing, So when you're doing that, though, there's things you can do in camera that replicate what is in post. Like graduated ND filters. That's the conversation we were having the other day. It's like, hey, a graduated ND filter would definitely do something here. That it was so easy to do, but since you didn't do it, now you got to do it in post. And then you did it, or you didn't do it in post, and you should have done it in post. So it's that whole thing of like, there's so many of these techniques that we find in Photoshop that, like you said, the dodging and burning, that comes for the dark room.
It started with Ansel Adams coming out of the dark room.
Yeah. This is not new things. It's not like, and it's not cheating. It's just, that's what it is.
Yeah, and it also helps to know what you can do in post and what you can't. Like sometimes it's easier to grab the thing in camera, and it's worth the extra time it take to get it. But other times it's like I can't make it perfect right now. I don't have the time. Sun setting, baby's crying. I got to go right now. What can I do to make this easier for me when I actually do get to post?
Right, and I think the bigger thing is the opposite. What can I do shooting it now, so I'm not spending hours in post?
Yes.
Trying to make that, well, like we were out one time, we were shooting a rocket on the beach, right? And there was something that you made an error that is unrecoverable in post, right? And then you're like, oh man, and I was like, they don't launch the rocket again.
Nope.
Like once you do it, you're done. Like you got to come back and shoot another one. Like that's part of the problem. But that was the whole thing. It's like, you have to make sure certain things cannot be recovered in post. So those are the things that you have to really pay attention to and really make sure. And that's where sometimes people they think, oh, I could do it in post. And like, why you can do a lot of stuff in post. There's certain things you just can't do. Not yet, at least. Not yet. Like changing focal planes, but that's coming.
Yeah.
I remember getting beat up on a podcast. I think at the time it was Panasonic, and we were talking about filter junkies that take a terrible image and they're going to clean it up using every possible filter they can find. And I made the comment that everybody needed to remember that you can't buff a turd.
Exactly.
And then I wound up getting all this email from 3 or 4 different people showing me on, was it Mythbusters?
Yeah.
Where they proved that you could buff one. So, you can't win.
Can't win. All right. Well, speaking of that, we got to take a break. But when we come back, we got to give away the prizes for the show. I know if you got a couple more images.
I have several more.
Several more images. So we'll go through some more images, talk about it, and then we're going to give away the prizes. Make sure you enter the prize contest if you want to win a prize at the end of the show. We're giving away that Platypod Extreme right there.
Hey guys, I'm Tuvi and I'm going to show you 2 really cool products that we at VFlat World sell. So the first one is our Duo boards, which are double-sided hyper-realistic backdrops for food and product photographers. They come in 2 sizes. This is the larger side. We have all different types of textures and designs. These are some of the new ones that came out recently, and they also, there's a bag option available for them. And our other product, which is what we actually started the company with, it's called a V-flat. It's a foldable V-flat, and it's used for portrait and studio photographers to control light on their subjects, to either add light with the white side or use the black side to subtract light, or even block like an unwanted window light coming in.
This segment of The Grid is brought to you by Platypod, the world's most compact tripod base.
All right, we're back, and we're looking at some of Dave's images here, breaking them down, like different things that you use as far as different techniques, reaching outside that comfort zone. So what else do we have here?
Let's see.
Let's see.
This is my elephant. This is a lesson actually that I learned from Karen Hutton, who is absolutely amazing. If you need to be inspired about something, go check out Karen Hutton's work and her courses. But the lesson I got from her was basically she owns her photography. Like she has a story to tell, and she tells it, and she doesn't really care that much if it's follows all the rules. She doesn't. I recall once you had this photo of this train, and it wasn't on a rule of thirds or anything like that. She said, "Why is that train there?" Because it's my world. That's where the train is. So this shot here is kind of an example of that. When I took this, it was taken in bright sunlight in the North Carolina Museum, or a zoo rather, and it wasn't really working for me. So I Photoshopped the heck out of it and came up with this image here, because that was the image that was kind of in my head. So I didn't care what was on the camera, because I couldn't do this. Obviously, you can't take your lighting equipment into a zoo for a wide variety of reasons. But this is the thing that I wanted to do, so I just did it because I control my universe. That's the magic of photography for me, and that's the result of my universe at that time.
Awesome.
So yeah,
very cool. Well, hey, we got a question before we get to another one. A question came in. I asked both of you this. So John's asking, what would you say is the most common error photographers make in camera, other than focus and exposure? Because yes, that is an obvious one. That is the most challenging to fix in post. So what would you say, Skip, is the most challenging?
I've got my answer: missing the moment.
Yeah.
In fact, there's a great story that Mary Ellen Mark used to tell, because when she taught a class, she would always make her students tape over the screen on the back of their camera. Her point being that she wanted them to shoot like they were shooting analog, because so often photographers would say, "Oh, I got the shot, let's move on," when that tear in grandma's eye at a wedding actually came 3 seconds later.
Yeah,
so she wouldn't allow them to chimp. And I think sometimes you just wind up missing the shot. Now, again, I'm talking about the portrait social world, especially weddings. You guys would know better about what you can't fix in post.
Well, I want to hear yours. What do you think? Besides, focus and exposure is a big one.
For me,
you can't. Focus is hard.
Yes, focus is hard, and you can't fix it in post. Yeah. For me, it's getting the lights right. Especially because with the action figures, so much of it depends on getting the light to kind of define what the toy looks like. You can brighten lights, you can dim lights, you can change exposure in post, but when you got a highlight on something and it's in the wrong spot, you can't change that in post very easily without skill. You can, but you've gone from photographer to like fine artist. Mark Rodriguez could do it.
Yeah.
It's very difficult otherwise. If you're not Mark Rodriguez, get your lighting done right in post or right in camera.
I would say the one that is composition for me. Like, I am very a stickler for that. Like, because there's only, you can crop, you can change perspectives a little bit, but if you don't get the composition right in camera, like that's just one that you could shine it up as much as you want. It's the composition is still going to be poor. So that's one of the things I think, like you were talking about, is moving around too quickly and going from shot to shot and not sitting there and saying, is that in the right position? Yeah, where is the leading, or where am I leading what am I telling? It's just all those things that, again, start the voices in my head and start going, well, you're using a leading line, but is it leading to the right place? Or, is that really compositionally, or there's four, like you had up there, there's four subjects. I wish there was only 3 subjects. Why? Because it just feels better when it's that odd number, right? So those are the things that are hard later to go back and say, oh, I wish I would have, changed the angle here. Like, changing the angle later is really hard. I mean, almost impossible.
Well,
besides focus and framing.
Here's a really easy educational tip for everybody out there. Go back to some of the images that you love. Take a look at them and just look at what you might have missed. Now, this is really good exercise. Roberto Valenzuela has done it with wedding photographers, of looking at an image and saying, how could I have shot it? What did I miss by not zooming in tighter, by not composing? But everybody's got images over the years that they really like, but your tastes have changed, your skill has changed. Go back and look at some of those older images and say, all right, what could I have done differently? What did I miss here? Could I have composed it better? And that's all part of the process. That's all part of the process of understanding when you hit that shutter button, you want to know that you're capturing exactly what you wanted to capture. And that's all part of the education process.
You learn way more from your mistakes than you do from your successes.
You
Amen to that. I definitely feel that way a lot. And in fact, I have folders on my computer that are about, like, I know next time I'm going to get an opportunity to do that shot. Here's what I did and why I screwed up at it, so I can go back later, and I've just got notes and folders that, you know, I know on Launch Complex 39A, there's this angle that I'm like, I'm wrong. I need to be better next time, and that shot will get better next time. So that's what you do. Awesome. Well, hey, we got to give away some prizes here on the show. So we've got the Platypod Stream, which, by the way, just so you know, that we've got that discount code, which I'm sure they'll bring up right now on the screen. That SK, I always get it wrong. SKBF20, and you can get 20% off those Platypod products, as well as you got those bundles there. We can save 20-30% off those bundles. So everybody's a winner on the show. You can all get that discount. It's here all the way through the end of the year while supplies last, and I think that's the key with that, while supplies last. So get on it now. But we're going to be giving away one of these Platypod Extremes. We're not giving away that ball head.
The ball head, the ball head is going home.
Ball head is not a prize. But who is winning the Extreme? So let's see. We have Lisa Golab is winning the Platypod Extreme. So congratulations, Lisa. Then we're going to be giving away Scott's travel photography book, and that is going to Jackie. And then Mike G is winning the V-Flat from V-Flat World. We have Kendra Perry-Koski is winning the dual boards. And then Rhonda Kennedy is winning Scott's Lightroom book. And then the On-One effects is going to Gary G. So Gary G, you won On-One effects. Not no noise, but effects. But no noise is great too, so check it out. All right, and then if you won that, just email us over at gridprize@kelby1.com. We'll verify your information. Make sure if you're one of those people that got something that's shipping to you, that you provide us your shipping address as well. Well, all right. Well, hey, there you go. The next question, like, where can they learn more about you guys? So, you know, I think that's your website over there, right?
Yeah, yep, that's my website, studiodave.ca. I have all my toy photography. I post everything I do because I don't sell this stuff, but I try to pick the best ones. My toy photography, my real life photography, I like to call them voice activated action figures. And I also have a YouTube channel that I started. You can access that right there. That kind of goes behind the scenes of how I create some of the stuff.
And then right there you can find all your social media stuff all from that website. So
Absolutely.
Going over to studiodave.ca.
It's because I'm Canadian, eh?
Hey. Yeah, I saw you went to you were checking out our hockey stadium last night, right?
Yeah. Edmonton Oilers versus the Bolts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fantastic venue.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
I love that place. The Ice. Well, I used to call it the Ice Palace, but now it's not the Ice Palace.
The
Amalie Arena.
Yes.
So, of course, I remember when they first came. It was actually at the Florida State Fairgrounds. We used to go see them.
Oh, really?
Florida State Fairgrounds. Yep. All right. And then Skip, where can they find about you?
Platypod.com. And if you've got any questions that I can help with, it's skip@platypod.com. And I want to thank the Kelby audience. We have done 2 of the most successful Kickstarter campaigns, I think, in the history of our industry. Launched here with Larry, and at one point I know I was over there with Larry Becker on one of them. Yeah. And we really appreciate the support. But all of you guys out there, these products that we've launched, the bundles this year, are all thanks to your input. In fact, the LumaCube 2.0 waterproof LED is part of the macro accessory, the Extreme Macro package right now. And you'll find other bundles on there that tie back in. In fact, the RGB Panel Pro is there too. Those are both of those 2 that you were talking about before.
Oh yeah, and those LEDs are so nice. I mean, I love them. They're so compact, super bright, but then dimmable, so you can all control them.
You can control them with your smartphone, and I can speak from experience. Those LumaCubes are waterproof. You can dunk them in a pool; they will work afterwards. The panels don't, but the LumaCubes, you can throw them anywhere.
Yeah. And they're Bluetooth control. I know we've had them set up in the booth at various shows, and it's amazing to sit and watch Larry do a quick demo of a ring shot, for example, where he's playing with the lights. It's phenomenal, the tools that everybody's got today.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for coming on the show. And definitely check out that those Platypod discounts. which I'm sure we'll bring up one more time. Because I'm telling you, the one thing about a lot of these products that I'll say is like, there's a lot of products out there that you buy and then you're like, am I really going to use that? These are all products that I feel like just made my photography better. So it's all products that like practical, they make your photography better, they make your photography easier. I really love the Platypod as well. I love shooting panos with the Platypod. Love the way it's designed. I put my nodal rail right on it, and because it's right, the panning point is on the top, not on the bottom. I just have to level the Platypod, put on my nodal rail, and then boom,
And
I'm just boom right around. So it's like super easy, super simple, and super compact, rather than taking a whole nodal setup where I need all this.
Well, every now and then I get a question from somebody saying, look, I've got Platypod, I used it for this, but I don't know what else to use it for. And I just send them over to the blog, because there are a couple of images, I think, of yours over the years too, from launches. So if you want to know all the different ideas on how to use any Platypod product, include Platyballs, just go to the blog. There's a new post twice a week goes up. Your stuff is there. I mean, there's so much there in terms of applications.
Yeah, Platypod has become part of my kit. I don't think I go anywhere, including flying to Tampa for a day, with Platypod. That's my Platypod.
Yeah, this
right
is
there.
actually. This is.
It goes everywhere, and all the tools. It just half the photos I've taken are some way using a Platypod, either holding the camera or holding lights or holding reflectors.
With this, I have the little the
square jellyfish.
Well, the smaller
the
one.
iPhone.
Yeah, but the smaller Platypod,
Ultra.
the Ultra. Yeah. The Ultra's with me with an attachment for my phone always, because that is my tripod for this thing. If I need to do long exposures, if I need to do anything, if I just need to capture a scene, it's always better to have it stabilized.
Yep.
But that little thing fits in my pocket. The other one fits in my pocket. And that's I've got a tripod with me all the time for my smartphone, and shooting raw. And there you go. So there you go. All right. Well, thanks for joining us. Scott will be back next week. Not sure who's going to be on the show next week, but we'll have something awesome for you guys. What's that? Lenworth is here next week, so definitely check it out, which is something I've learned a lot from Lenworth over the years. So there you go. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next week here on The Grid.